Wikipedia. I love you.
Always.
Eastern State Penitentiary's actual website is full of very good information.
As one would hope.
And a website called legendsofamerica.com, which was just as good. I found so much stuff on there. It was awesome. And I want to start this off with a quote. Well, something that was quoted. I don't know if it was an actual quote, but
okay.
It's quoted. And it's a quote, "When Eastern State opened more than 180 years ago, it changed the world. Known for its grand architecture and strict discipline, this was the world's first true penitentiary. A prison designed to inspire penitence or true regret in the hearts of prisoners. The building itself was an architectural wonder, and it had running water and central heat before the White House and attracted visitors from around the globe."
Whoa.
That's a pretty big claim, man.
Before the White House?
Yeah, this place was it was ahead of its time.
Wow.
It really was.
And how ominous is that? Like, it's built for penance. Like,
penitence.
What? Penitence.
I know, I had to keep saying it over and over. So I was like, I'm going to mess this up.
I feel like I messed up penitentiary, so it's okay.
I've noticed, like, when I was doing my research, because we use the dictate on Microsoft Word.
Yep.
And I would say it two different ways.
Yeah,
I would say
too.
penitentiary or penitentiary. Hey, look, tweet at us. Let me know how we're supposed to say it. I'm going to say penitentiary. It just rolls off the tongue.
It does, yes.
Now, to understand how Eastern State Penitentiary came to be, we have to go back to the year of 1773. It is at this time the Walnut Street Jail was built to remedy the issue of overcrowding and treacherous conditions at Philadelphia's Old Stone Jail, and it then received its first prisoners in 1776. In 1790, an official penitentiary house with the capacity of 16 single cells would be built inside the Walnut Street Jail, and an experiment with day and night solitary confinement would begin. It was built to use individual cells and work details. This was considered the first penitentiary house in the United States. The word penitentiary came from the Pennsylvania Quakers' belief in penitence and self-examination as a means to salvation. This was made a new and permanent form of combating crime through the practice of solitary confinement, which was later adopted at the Eastern State Penitentiary. In 1787, Dr. Benjamin Rush founds the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, and it quickly became the leading advocate for the humane and salutary treatment of the incarcerated. From the restructuring of the Walnut Street Jail in the 18th century to the construction and oversight of the Eastern State Penitentiary in the 19th century, and its ongoing work as a social casework agency, the Society's efforts shaped correctional practices in Pennsylvania and beyond. Benjamin Franklin even joined this group on August 13th of 1787. This group is actually still around today. It is now called the Pennsylvania Prison Society, and it promotes correctional reform and social justice. Old.
Wow, that is a big name drop.
Yeah, Benjamin, old Benny. Let me get them.
Mr. Franklin.
Let me get them Benjamins. In 1821, after many years of lobbying from the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, the Pennsylvania legislature approves funding to build the Eastern State Penitentiary. The new prison was to hold 250 inmates. That blew my mind.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh.
4 architects would submit a design for the massive new prison. Our old friend, John Haviland, a British architect who had settled in Philadelphia, would win the commission, and he would receive a $100 prize for his design. Now,
wait a second.
Yes.
Wait a second.
I was hoping you would.
I know that name.
You do know that name. This is the same guy who built who designed the Missouri State Penitentiary.
Yes,
he's a penitentiary creating fool.
Yeah, and he had, among many other buildings, but so many penitentiaries. Prisons on his list, his roster.
I remember saying this in the Missouri State episode. It's like, it seems like there's some kind of there's something with him and building haunted places.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just the times and these places were, places where people were beat and locked up and tortured. I don't know. But it just seems really weird because they're not, all the places that he designed that are haunted aren't just jails.
Right.
There's other stuff. We will probably run into Mr. Havlin again in the future.
Wow.
Rival architect William Strickland, whose design had been rejected, was chosen to oversee the construction. And in 1882, construction would begin on the foundation and walls, but William Strickland would be fired, and John Havlin is appointed to oversee the construction. Because he's the man. I don't know that. It's just a guess. Now, the French Marquis de Lafayette, the last surviving major general of the American Revolutionary War, made a tour of the then 24 states of the United States. He was received by the populace with a hero's welcome at many stops, and many honors and monuments were presented to commemorate and memorialize his visit. In 1826, the Marquis de Lafayette would visit Philadelphia and the not yet finished Eastern State Penitentiary. On April 23, 1829, legislation specifying separate or solitary confinement in labor is passed. Many leaders believe that crime is the result of environment and that solitude will make the criminal regretful and penitent, hence the new word penitentiary. This correctional theory, as practiced in Philadelphia, will become known as the Pennsylvania system. So they have this is their own system. Wow. Nobody else has this yet.
Wow.
Plans are finalized to prohibit all contact between prisoners at Eastern State, the world's most ambitious penitentiary, now nearly ready for its first inmates. Masks are even fabricated to keep the inmates from communicating during rare trips outside of their cells. Cells were equipped with feed doors and individual exercise yards to prevent contact between inmates and guards. Eastern State Penitentiary opens on October 25th, 1829. It's right around your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet they didn't know you were 140.
I look good.
Yeah, you do. And its first inmate. Now, I wrote this word for word, so if anybody's offended with how this sounds, these are not my words. I tried to think of different ways of saying stuff, but I wanted to be as true to the story. So this is 1829.
Yeah.
There's no derogatory words in it, but I still felt crappy
writing it,
yeah. Reading it, just because you'll see why. I just didn't like it.
And I do have to say, putting like masks over their faces.
Yeah.
So that like literally you have no contact with anyone whatsoever.
Well, it was the penitence thing. They thought that if they isolated you, you would somehow get better. I don't understand. I don't understand the logic.
Super weird.
All right. A man named Charles Williams, or prisoner number 001, found his new home. A burglar. This was the description of his bringing in, whatever they call that. What do they call that? Intake. How would you know that?
Oh.
All right. Not a story for the podcast. A burglar, light black skin, 5 feet 7 inches tall, foot size 11 inches, scar on nose, scar on thigh, broad mouth, black eyes, farmer by trade, can read. Theft included one $20 watch, one $3 gold seal, and one gold key. Sentenced to 2 years confinement with labor. Received by Warden Samuel Wood. Samuel Wood was the first warden of Eastern State Penitentiary. On June 17th, 1840, Warden Samuel Wood reports on a meeting of the prison's board of inspectors, he says, quote, having resigned my situation as warden of the institution. The meeting of the board was for the purpose of supplying the vacancy. George Thompson was elected as my successor from the 1st of next month. So he didn't last for very long.
Wow.
That's unquote.
Wow.
I'm getting my shit together. I can't seem to
quick.
read tonight.
That was a quick jaunt as the warden.
Yeah, he wasn't there for very long. And I looked up a lot of stuff. I tried to look up a lot of stuff on him. I couldn't find anything. So I don't know how these other podcasters are finding all this. Maybe we'll get better as we go, but I just couldn't find anything on him. I found a lot of other good stuff, but he was very hard to find.
Either way, I think it sounds great. You're doing a good job, babe.
Stumbling tonight. I must be tired.
Yeah.
It's the ghost in the closet. In 1831, work is completed on Block 3, the last of the original single-story cell blocks. Work begins on Blocks 4, 5, 6, and 7, all 2 stories to accommodate the increasing number of convicts. Block 7 was completed in 1835, and first female prisoner is also received in 1831, and French commissioners Gustave de Beaumont and Alexis de Tocqueville would visit to study the new correctional system. 1832, the first inmate made his escape from the prison. For some reason, this inmate was not entirely confined to solitude and served as the warden's waiter. He made his escape by lowering himself from the roof of the front of the building. He was later captured and returned, but escaped in the exact same way again in 1837. By the time the original plan was completed in 1836, the building was the largest and most expensive public structure ever erected in the United States at the cost of $780,000, which would equate to more than $18 million today. At that time, its cost was believed to have been second only to the U.S. Capitol. The Pennsylvania system was opposed by the Auburn system, also known as the New York system, which held that prisoners should be forced to work together in silence and could be subjected to physical punishment. This system was favored in the United States at the time. Regardless of the cost and the disfavor by other systems, delegates from around the world came to study the radial floor plan and system of solitary confinement, and it became the model for more than 300 prisons worldwide. Some, however, were not as convinced of the method. A man named Charles Dickens, yes, that Charles Dickens.
The Charles Dickens?
Yes.
Oh.
After a visit in 1841, he wrote, quote, "I am persuaded that those who design this system do not know what it is they're doing. I hold the slow and daily tampering with the mysteries of the brain to be immeasurably worse than any torture of the body," unquote.
Oh.
Not a fan. Smart guy.
Yeah.
They could have listened to him. No.
Maybe a little.
Man, whatever. He was kind of a weird guy. By the 1870s, the prison needed more space, and 4 new cell blocks were added in 1877 between the existing wings. Before long, the individual exercise yards were eliminated, and inmates would exercise together for the first time at Eastern State Penitentiary, but they were still required to wear masks and be silent.
Jesus. That is crazy.
It's so weird. You can see each other, but you can't see each other.
Right? What?
Now, though the reform plan of the Pennsylvania system called for no corporal punishment, this was not the case. Guards and counselors were known to have designed various physical and psychological torture regimens for various infractions.
Oh, here we go.
One of these was called the water bath, and it subjected inmates to being doused with water outside during the frigid winter months and then hang on a wall until ice formed on their skin. Man, it's Taunton State all over again.
My God.
Another torture, called the mad chair, in which prisoners were bound tightly for days until their circulation was cut off and were taunted by guards and other inmates. It is known that inmates who were strapped within the mad chair often went mad.
Yeah.
The iron gag involved tying an inmate's hands behind their back with a chain trapped to an iron collar in their mouth, which caused the tongue to tear and bleed whenever the inmates would move. Under block number 14 was dug an underground cell that was called the Hole. Here, inmates would stay locked, sometimes for weeks, with no light, no human contact, with only bread and water to eat.
Oh, okay. Can I just go back to the iron thing?
Yeah, the iron gag. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
My nails were digging into my hands, and I
actually saw pictures of this thing.
My God.
And it's literally like it says, it's like an iron collar with studs on it, and it goes inside of your mouth